I'm Greg Hill from WEEI, and I'm taking a walk around the seaport with Buzz.
Welcome to Taking a Walk, an excursion to converse, connect, and catch up at a cool location with some of the most interesting people you can find.
I'm Buzz Knight, and the Taking a Walk series is about connecting with cool people at great locations. And for me, it's awesome because it gives me a chance to get to know someone even better, especially someone whose work I've admired and respected over many, many years. Today, we're in the Seaport District with a Boston radio icon, businessman, all-around great guy. He's the former morning man from WAAF, and he's currently the morning host at WEEI. Please welcome Greg Hill.
Buzz, great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for taking a walk. This is really great. I am so looking forward to this. When I think about our time in this market, it's usually been you and I fleeting moments at the Capitol Grill, walking through, or
Are you saying I only hang out at restaurants? Is that what you're saying? Restaurants or bars?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, the same could be said of me too.
I was always just trying to get you to either hire me or make an offer so I could get more out of wherever I was working.
I love that. I hope I helped maybe occasionally.
I think you did.
Because I always enjoy that tactic for sure. But I think the most that I was thinking about this, that we actually got to talk, if I'm not mistaken, was at your former boss's wife's memorial, if I believe. Ron Valeri's wife was passed away.
Yes.
I remember talking to you at the after gathering there, and that was probably the longest we probably ever talked.
It was, yeah.
Sad moment for sure.
Yeah. Well, and just, I worked for Ron Valeri a bunch of times back and forth, and one of the most instrumental people when it comes to a mentor and somebody that was just a great program director in our business. Like, just could be a little bit aggressive at times in the way in which he managed people, but sometimes that's better, right?
Yeah, Ron's a superstar. Ron worked for me many years ago back in Connecticut, and then when he made the move up to AAF, we were all very proud of him, and subsequently I would move into the market. So before we get into some of the ways and means that Greg Hill left the mean streets of Stowe and hit the big time, I want to let you know the cool thing about doing podcasts, you probably know, is we have a global audience. This is what kind of mystifies me when I look at the data coming in. We got a big audience in Great Britain. I don't know if you have any words for the folks in Great Britain.
Yeah. Well, what does one say? What, like, is it cheerio or like what is?
Yeah.
What?
Bugger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big audience also in Italy for some reason. I can't figure that out.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then what would you say
define a big audience in Italy?
12 people.
Okay. Good. Well, that's good. 12 more than I have. So.
Yeah. And then Czechoslovakia, too. As well. Yeah, it's the strangest thing. I don't know why this happens, but I find it rather amusing. So,
Maybe contacted by the CIA or something to send secret messages to the Ukrainians or something.
I know. It's
like the what was it? Did you listen to that podcast series at all by any chance on the Scorpions song?
No, I didn't.
Wind of Change?
Oh no, I love that song.
You should listen. It was theoretically it was written by the CIA.
Oh God.
And then they went to the Scorpions and it was all a secret message.
Oh, that is so funny. Yeah. I got to check that out. No secret messages here. No. We're just taking a walk and having a good old time. So, besides your great status and legend in the market, when I was thinking of the series and people to take a walk with, one of the reasons I thought of you immediately was your history, which I so admired, of these walks you would take from Worcester to Boston for charities and all of that. Tell me about that and some of the great stories behind that, because we used to look at you in awe for those.
Well,
don't tell me you drove the whole way.
No. I actually walked the whole way. When I started on WEAF in 1989, it was considered really to be a Worcester station. So we wanted to break into the Boston market, and we wanted to do that for revenue. And so in order to do that, we didn't, as is typical in radio and probably maybe with this podcast, I don't know, there were no advertising budgets. Is there,
for sure.
Is there an advertising budget for taking a walk?
No.
So the way to do that was to do something stupid or something that would get people to notice. So we started off with me walking from Worcester to Boston over 3 or 4 days and collecting change along the way for the Greater Boston Food Bank, or the Worcester County Food Bank, and then over the years expanded it with everybody that was on the show, whether it was LB or Spaz or Danielle, and so I look back on those kinds of things as being like kind of the great days of radio, where you didn't have lawyers that were involved. You could, you could do things like that, and there wasn't an argument against it. Now, you bring something up that you want to do, and there are 10 people arguing against why you can't do it, as opposed to saying, how do we figure out how to do it? So I love that. But, being able to shake hands with people and meet them and being able to say to them, hey, listen to me tomorrow morning on the radio, is the greatest, way in which to build a radio show. And when I first started this, somebody said to me, doing a morning show is like running for president. And the more hands that you shake, the more people that will listen to you. So,
do you remember who said that?
I don't. I think believe it or not, it may have been John Garabedian, who I worked for John at V66 when I was still in high school, and taught me a lot of things, and certainly a guy who's done really, really well in our business. Yeah, he just fairly recently sold those radio stations down at the Cape to a friend of mine, actually. Yeah. But he's a guy who loved radio. Yep. I think there are still a considerable amount of those people in this business, but I'm not sure that there are as many as there used to be when we first started. Yeah, and I think it's beautiful when you can look at it from the position that I was in, and I would look and competitively just be like, that Greg Hill, look, he's doing this again. But we would really use this as a standard. I'm not just telling you this, either in local discussions with talent or when I was in a corporate role, when we would try to say, this is how you should do it. This is the model you should follow. So you really had that and still have that, great influence when it comes to, what you've done for your community and what you continue to do for the community. I appreciate you saying that. Well, it's the real thing. Now, who else shaped you in that regard to think in those terms about community and helping people out? Who else was an influence? I worked for a great general manager in the early days at WAF named Bruce Mittman. You know Bruce? Sure. And Bruce was a guy who always said yes, and Bruce was somebody who always found a way to get things done. And he was not afraid of the FCC. He wasn't afraid of advertisers saying they're not going to spend. He was like an absolute animal, an absolute savage, and he was a big believer in, and Ron was too. And if you're gonna have edgy content, you need to balance that out by what you do in the community, so that when you do get in trouble, you can turn around and point and go, well, wait a second, we're edgy, and we say this, and this stupid thing that we did resulted in this, but we also go around and help out in these ways. And so it's kind of where I got that from, I guess. The white glove.
That's what we would call it.
That's called the white glove.
Yeah. And one thing about Bruce Mittman, I love Bruce to death and respect him greatly. Bruce has to be a little bit more candid with his opinion on things because he really holds back.
He doesn't really tell you how he feels.
Right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
That's what's so amazing about him. So when did you first get the bug and realize that this was going to be a career?
Well, I grew up listening to radio. I was a huge fan of a guy named Larry Glick, who was on WBZ at night. And so when I was, in middle school, I loved Larry Glick. I loved radio. I listened to WBCN. I was really into music. I was into the music that BCN played, not necessarily into the music that AAF played at the time. And so we had a room off my house in Stowe where I grew up, which was like an old garage room essentially. And I had paper route. I went out and saved all my paper route money, bought myself 2 turntables, and I would go out and I went to the Woolworths, which was in Maynard, every week, and bought the top 20 45s, the songs that were popular, and I would go every day after school and legitimately do a radio show in that room, which no one was listening to. And it was a great place to make mistakes, fuck up, and learn, figure out kind of what my style was going to be when nobody was listening.
Yeah.
And, as at times during my career, there were only 2 or 3 more people listening than were listening in the garage. So it really wasn't. But it's something that I was always passionate about. I look back now and say I'm really fortunate because my passion ended up being what I was able to work in and make a living in, and I'm so lucky about that. So lucky about it.
Yeah, it's beautiful to see it, and then beautiful to see the layers that you add to your personal brand, like over time. I mean, you didn't start obviously with working the charitable piece. You grew that piece, obviously, and then you ultimately added into that your foundation. So tell me about the first genesis of the foundation and talk about some of the work that the foundation is doing.
Well, I always had, not always, but after I had been doing this for 15 years, and I had, frequently I would walk in to do the show at 5 a.m. and something tragic had happened overnight, whether it was the death of a police officer or a fire or a story about a family who needed help. And at that point, there was no such thing as GoFundMe. So there was no central way of giving that existed. So I had this idea in my mind about establishing a foundation so that immediately we could, everybody's attention is on those things when they happen right that moment. And then news cycle wise, life cycle wise, people move on to other things. So by the time a fund used to get set up at the local credit union, everybody was on to something else. So I wanted to be able to establish a way that people could give that morning. We could use radio for what it is best at, which is immediacy and being able to help out locally in the community right away. And so in 2011, to celebrate my 20th year on the radio, I established that foundation, and I'm really, really proud to say, and should not get the credit for it. It should be the people who've given over the years, but we have literally just hit the $20 million mark when it comes to what we've donated.
Wow.
So
that's outstanding.
And that's thousands and thousands of people who give $25, $50, go to an event, help out, over and over and over again. It's extraordinary. It's amazing to me how generous. We live in the most generous part of the country as far as I'm concerned. People give and give and give.
But you also have a lot of great, corporate sponsors
we do.
As well.
Yeah, and we've been able to get to that point where we can leverage kind of what we do, and it takes a while for people to understand what you do and to kind of sit there and watch you do it. And So we're really fortunate in that way as well.
Congratulations on it. Let's talk about the seaport. You've certainly seen, I've certainly seen how it's just transformed over the last couple of years, 5 years.
Yeah.
We're looking out over here. This is Fan Pier, right?
Yeah.
And it's just crazy what's going on. So talk about where we're at.
I moved here 2 years ago. I love this section of the city. I love the water. We have a house in Maine, which I love, and I love being every day. I love being out here on the water, whether it's walking around like we are today, or honestly, I spend a lot of time eating as well at Davio's or wherever, So, this neighborhood to me is it's the biggest thing about it is I'm old, so it's alive. Like you walk outside.
I'm almost dropped my phone in the water when he said that.
But do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you feel it when you come down here? That it's alive. That there's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't get into the city that much, unfortunately, which is really lame. But
listen. I think you go through different stages in your life. I lived in Stowe from the time that my kids were born until they were out of the house, and I love being in the suburbs. But stages. Like I love being back in the city. I love it.
Yeah, I love coming in. Still come in from time to time, but if I get past Fiorella's in Concord, that's a big night.
I've seen you there as well.
Yes, you have. Yeah, we both have the same. Now, when you go to different cities, do you have like places restaurant-wise that you're locked in different cities as well?
No, I like to go. I like to find out where I don't. There's some great, national chain restaurants, but I like asking around and finding out where people like to go, and then being able to talk to people kind of about their city and about. I love traveling, and someday I certainly haven't been one who has not traveled, but I look forward to someday when I do stop doing this to being able to travel a lot, because I love visiting places.
Just while we're walking, it just occurred to me, there's a place, I'm sure you know it, by the way. This is a little bit of a game, but it's also a story. It's a place in Concord called Sally Ann's. It's a little pastry coffee shop.
Yeah.
I know you know it.
Yeah.
So anyway, Bill, the owner there, Bill was listening to one of the Takin' a Walk podcasts, and he was particularly amused at the notion, I think it was when Dan Shaughnessy and I took a walk, and he thought it was hysterical how he said, I could hear you guys sort of huffing a little bit when you're walking.
Yeah.
I said, well, we're walking.
It's legit.
What do you want?
This is like the first day that I'm going to get my 10,000 steps in, which I tell myself every morning I'm going to get my 10,000 steps in.
Yeah.
I get about 5,000, but yeah, it's cool. We're doing it.
So how's it going on EEI? That obviously was a major shift in your life.
Yeah.
How's it going?
I listen, for me, it was a great opportunity and a great challenge. And I think that we had, because you did this so well for so long, that it's all about, in my opinion, it's all about chemistry. And you can't fake chemistry. And we are at a great point when it comes to the Greg Hill show with the cast of characters where there's great chemistry. And it takes a while to get there. It takes getting the right people. It takes getting to know people. It takes years of working together to know a story about Chris Curtis that, I can share on the air that's getting, and I know how Curtis is going to react. He knows how I'm going to react. So we're at it's almost 3 years that I've been there. We're at a great point, and I think the radio station is, first of all, it's a legendary radio station. First sports radio station in Boston. Some incredible, talented people have worked there over the years. I take a lot of pride in being able to be a part of that. And I think the station is evolving as any brand does after 30 years. So it's kind of cool to be a part of that.
And you got a great guy, Mike Thomas, who's a dear friend as well, who's at the helm there. And
really good guy.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who kind of helped Sports Hub become what Sports Hub is. And so to me, it's really exciting. Like, as I said earlier, I am fortunate to still have a career in this business. I did 28 years on AAF, almost 29.
And you're only like 37, so it's weird.
But honestly, I'm out of breath like I'm 70 during this walk. That is a real problem. But yeah, no, I love it. I get up every day excited to go in there and talk about Tom Brady for the 170th day in a row.
Yeah, and the thing around Boston is there's never any sports to talk about, really.
Right.
Now, remember, for the format, and it still could be an issue for the format, but I remember there was this thing, and it was sort of market dependent on, well, when the teams aren't playing or they're not in, season, what are you going to talk about? And it seems like that's not a problem now, is it?
No. First of all, I think in Boston, when the teams are not playing well, that's better for sports radio.
Right.
But also, I came there with the intent to do lots of different things. To me, content is content, and my goal is to try to find a way to make, and people are miserable. We're all miserable in the morning. We're going to work. Work sucks. So I'm always trying to find a way to make people smile, and it doesn't always have to be sports. It can be what's on the mind, after the blizzard, or after the beautiful sunny summer weekend. It's about what's going on in the city. It's really about what you want to talk about, what's on people's minds.
This question almost sounds a little bit of a cross between Oprah and Jiminy Glick. So let's give it a go. So, Greg, why do people like you?
Well, there's a considerable amount if you pay attention to the text messages or social media. There's a considerable amount who probably don't. But I think probably a better question is, why do you hope that people like you?
Why do you hope people like you, Greg?
I need lots of things answered about this question. Are you talking about people who listen, or my family, my friends? Because I separate the two.
Oh, all right. It doesn't have to be separated. They all intersect a little bit.
Yeah. Listen, I hope people like me because they appreciate the fact that I have done my best to help the community out, that I'm in general a pretty positive guy who I enjoy. There's people in our business, I feel like, who are unable to, for whatever reason, appreciate the success of others. I love being able to see somebody who has worked with me or worked at a station that I'm at who goes on to do great things. So I hope they appreciate that. I hope they appreciate the fact that I'm worked really hard to be a pretty good father. And I hope they like if I'm trying to get some kind of stupid dad joke off, I hope they appreciate the effort.
Well, I also think, though, too, I would add that, you're approachable. I mean, and I've seen this in real time where there is air talent who's not really that approachable and comfortable, in the public setting. And you are approachable, and people sense that and feel that. And I think that's part of the connection that you continue to make.
Well, if nobody's listening, then I'm going to be doing a job that requires physical effort, and I can't do that. So I am grateful more than I can express when I meet people who give me part of their day to listen. And I think that I got another great piece of advice from a guy who used to be a production director at WEEI in the early years. His name was Mitch Todd. And he was talking about air personalities, people on the air, because he had been on the air for a while. And he said, you always have to remember that we are one step below the carnival barker when it comes to fame. So I think that, I think that we're really fortunate to be in a business where people, are interested in what we say. They're hoping that you're able to entertain them, inform them, and they give you some credit for that. But we're not Tom Brady. We're not, we're not David Ortiz. We're just we're on the radio, and it's no big deal. So if you act like it's a big deal, I don't know why you do.
Well, so you've got the entrepreneurial side of your life, philanthropic, obviously, the entertaining side. In closing, any last chapter that you haven't fulfilled that you might want to fulfill?
I think, there are a lot of things that I want to do, and I don't really, I don't know what they are. I think I am interested in being able to do something that is mentoring people in some way, shape, or form when it comes to this business. And by the way, this business is what you're doing right now. We're in the business of audio content, whether it's delivered via podcast or delivered on the radio or delivered into your head by Elon Musk in 10 years. We're all in this business of sharing a little bit about ourselves and trying to make people think and trying to make people laugh. And so I'd love to do something at some point that gives me the opportunity to interact with people who are really passionate about that.
Well, Greg,
what about you, though?
What about me? All right, now at the end,
it wouldn't be if I did this and I didn't interview the interviewee.
Yeah,
that would be a failure on my part. So, how are you enjoying this next chapter for you? And is there anything that you haven't done that you want to do?
So I'm loving it. I'm loving it because it's reawakening skills that I needed to reawaken from being somebody that was on the air previously. I'm learning, sometimes the hard way. I've always loved interviews, and that's always been something that I really enjoy. I love creating things or being part of it. I was usually the person who was part of the creating, but my part was get out of the way and let the creative people do the creating and just help them. So this venture I really like, and it's something that I want to continue to enjoy. But I'd like to find something that helps an industry that I'm very grateful for, that has been good to me, and that certainly can always use a lift. So that's what I would like to do, whether it be something that helps AM radio, honestly, which may be too late, I hate to say. We have in this market, Boston, for you folks in Czechoslovakia, they probably can hear it
or
there.
Italy.
Right, or Italy.
Yeah.
1030 WBZ is one of those other iconic, AMs that will survive, but it breaks my heart when I see AMs that just sign off because that's a better business decision.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking. So, I don't know, maybe I can be part of something with a group to, give AM owners another shot at something, another revenue stream. So maybe those are some of the things. But I want to be around people who are collaborative and creative.
All right, and then two more. One thing you miss, only one thing you miss about radio, being involved in radio on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, the team collaboration, and then ultimately the wins that came from that.
And one thing you don't miss, and you can't say salespeople.
Oh, well, I would say the traffic jams that I used to have to be in.
That's very diplomatic.
Well,
you're a professional. That's a diplomatic answer. You didn't say obnoxious. I think you're saying obnoxious, overpaid talent.
No, I love talent. I started as talent, so I know how to be obnoxious just like the next guy. And I love always being with talent, and that was where I was always most comfortable. But there were times I would be driving out from Metro West and be flying to, let's say, Philadelphia, and I would be in traffic, listening to you and other morning shows for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then I would get to the airport and fly to Philadelphia, and then I would be in traffic when I landed in Philadelphia for another hour and a half. So that I don't miss.
It was one, if there were good things about the pandemic, that was one. You could get anywhere you want to go in the city in 10 minutes.
Right.
So
yeah. So I don't miss that, but I miss those collaborations for sure. being associated with those wins, because we had some good wins across the board.
Well, keep doing this. Thanks for including me. I think I reached out because I had listened to Taking a Walk with Doris Kearns Goodwin, who's your friend from Concord. And
thank you.
So keep doing it, and thanks for letting me take a walk with you.
Thanks for doing it, Greg. This has been a blast.
All right, man.
Taking a Walk with Buzz Knight is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.